Good morning, world. Welcome to Chats with Baba, Baba's podcast. As you know, this podcast is about informing parents and to empower parents of young Black children. It's applicable to any child, but I'm focusing on the Black child, and I'll talk more specifically about that as we get into this. Parents, as you know, are teachers, are children's first and foremost teacher. You know, they lay the foundation that impacts their life. And the effort here is to have parents, is to enable parents to release the natural genius that is in Black children. Black children have untapped and underdeveloped gifts. The quality of experience and exposure lays the foundation for life. We want to move from miseducation to education and strive for excellence. Well, again, good morning. This weekend, there's a lot that's going on. Sunday is Father's Day. And I want to, acknowledge all the fathers who are involved in the lives of their children, because you are critical. Whether you are in an intact family, I don't want to get into that, but you are the father of any child that you have brought forth onto this earth. And you have a moral obligation and a moral responsibility to nurture the development of that child. So I want to say hats off to all fathers. This is also the signing by the President Biden of acknowledging Juneteenth. What is Juneteenth? In 1863, President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing slaves. Well, in today's world, if that were the case, take, for example, when Joe Biden signed this legislation, instantly it was known all over the world, instantly. Okay, as they say, in a nanosecond, everybody knew about it. Whether they gave recognition to it is a whole different issue, but the word went out, spread, boop. Well, back in 1863, they didn't have internet. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have all of what we now have available to us. So it was late arriving in Texas, 2 years later. Some of the Black soldiers brought forth to Texas that all slaves were freed. So in June of 1865, 2 years later, that's why it's called Juneteenth, June 19th, was the acknowledgement of freeing of all slaves. So the president has now, President Biden, current day President Biden, has signed into law the acknowledgement of Juneteenth as a federal holiday. And what the implications of that is, it will continue to unfold. Some states have already sanctioned, they won't acknowledge it. We go through this. When the Martin Luther King holiday was signed into law, some states would not acknowledge it. And whether or not it has to do with this, of it freeing Black folks, is just a whole different issue. So Juneteenth is now given credence. There are several things I want to talk about today as it relates to what this podcast is all about. COVID-19, this virus. If you keep up with the news, there are folks who are acknowledging they will not get vaccinated for a host of reasons. The president wanted by July 4th to have at least 50% of the country or more receiving vaccination. There are groups of people who are resisting. There are now court cases and so forth and so on. Having said that, one of the things that we do know that because of many school districts having to close down, you hear a lot in the news of called lost learning. The depth of the lost learning, we won't know for some time. You know, there are individuals and groups beginning to study what impact did this have on children's learning. We know for sure that some learning has been lost. The depth of it, we don't know. All I can say to you parents is whatever you can do to find out what your local school district is doing to bridge that gap from the time that this pandemic hit us to where we are. Take advantage of the offerings and or acknowledge that something has happened and what can you do about it? You can always look at what were the expectations for that year and try to figure out some manner of linking where children were and where they need to be brought to. And I'll be addressing that in the next couple of newsletters of some suggestions of materials and things that you can do. I want to talk a little bit about, as we talk about preschoolers, something came to my attention about a little more than 15 years ago that really shook me as a teacher, as a parent, as an early childhood educator. And that what we call the preschool to prison pipeline. I was on my way to work, and I heard this news commentator talk about the number of children, preschool children, who were being expelled. I said, no, this can't be true. So my natural inquiry was to look into this. This was the beginning of the concept of young Black children in preschool who were being expelled for whatever reason. They were being put out. And when the concept of preschool to prison pipeline, it meant that they were being fed into the criminal justice system because of some violation. I could spend the next couple of days talking about what I feel this is inappropriate. These are children, and some of what they're doing, they don't have a clue. But because of what was adopted in schools, what they call zero tolerance policy, anything outside of what that policy said was a violation, and therefore the school acted on it by expelling the child. I'll come back to that. So that concerned me. That concerns me in terms of what is the impact, what is the long-term impact of that a preschooler who is now a number in the judicial system and will be tracked, if you will. So what can we do to A, stop that, and B, have some assurance that when children are going to school, have the necessary preparatory skills, knowledge, and disposition to be successful. So I want to spend a little bit of time helping parents to embrace the concept of teaching children to develop a love for learning. Yes, teaching children to develop a love for learning. It's in my heart of hearts, and I witnessed that in my own two children, and now my grandchildren. It's what we instilled in our children, and what our children are now instilling in their children. So the connection of developing an appreciation to love learning is intergenerational. It's because of what children seeing you doing that they take on those same kinds of skills and behaviors and disposition towards learning. Let's turn the clock back a little bit. You ever watch a baby a baby take a hold of his foot and put his foot in his mouth? I mean, we can't do that. We don't have the dexterity and the physical capability of doing that. But watch a baby grab a hold of his foot and just put his or her foot in the mouth And it's a matter of exploring their body, exploring themselves. And as they're going through this, they're learning something about their capabilities and the world around them. They may not be thinking this way, but this is what they're doing. They are in the process of learning, and they learn by exactly doing what they do, investigating everything they come in contact. They observe, they tinker with, they employ whatever investigative techniques they know without even knowing about them. And this is what they do, continuous exploration. Now, while they're doing this, there are connections being made in their brain. And those connections are stored in their brain because children come back to them as they get on with investigating other things. So again, I've said in previous podcasts that the nature of a child is to explore and analyze and investigate everything that they come in contact with. Our role is to spend time observing them and helping them to continue with this exploratory behavior that's going on. And while they're doing this, they are beginning to have some appreciation for what it is that they're engaging in. So to develop an appreciation for learning is a lifelong process. Okay, it's not a quick fix. It's not a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's a process. And in this process, there are a series of experiences that lead to what we call aha moments. We don't see children saying that, but within in their mind, oh, something's going on here. Let me try this again. So in that process, they are encountering challenges. And in the process of encountering these challenges, they are taking on new learning and storing it as they move forward. And in doing so, we as parents nurture what we see in our children. We nurture it and we nudge them. We don't do it for them, but we nudge them as they are into this exploratory type of behavior. So what am I saying? During the preschool years, all of what they are developing is preparation for formal schooling or formal learning. That's to come later. But the key to learning to love is preparation. All the things that you do, reading to them, nurturing them, affirming them. All of these are the elements in terms of the preparatory process. Let me come at that another way. Think about, I'm being presumptuous. Think about your favorite recipe. Think about what is it that makes this recipe different, unique, and you're wanting to do it. It's all of what goes into it that you pay attention to as you are preparing it. Let me digress for just a moment. My late wife was an excellent cook. Excellent, period. So I used to sit and watch her. Let's say it was the Thanksgiving meal and all of what goes into laying out this elaborate dinner. It was what she did in preparing the ingredients for the dressing. It's what she did in preparing the ingredients for the cake. It's what she did in preparing for the ingredients in pies, whatever the case may be. It was the preparation leading up to putting all the elements together. But she took care, detailed care in the preparatory, in the preparing of these elements. Well, it's the same thing of love for learning. It's the preparation that you do. It's the nurturing. It's the time that you take and spend with the child, getting him or her ready. So all of that says that when you do these things and you lay that foundation, and they at some point will either be homeschooled or they will then go into a preschool that leads up to the more formalized learning in what we now call public school, public and or private school. So there is a period of preparation that puts in your child certain knowledge, certain skills, and disposition, how they think and feel about things that they encounter. So I think that, and I'm saying that to say that we want to, not the preschool to prison pipeline, but the preschool to college pipeline, the preschool to a different pathway that will enable them to thrive and survive by having a high quality education. And so by doing that, we can avoid the trap of them not having what's required to be successful in school. Yeah, so in this process of enabling your children to develop a love for learning, what you do during their early stages is critical. It's I would almost say it's required. Recently, one of the TV networks did a special on the former champ, Mike Tyson, and you know about his background, where he came from, and so forth and so on. And he's had a trail of other kinds of things that were not in his best interest. He even went to prison for some of it. But in the interview, the commentator asked him, if you encountered a young Mike Tyson, given what you've been through, what would you say to him? Mike paused for a moment and he said, I would say to him, this is tough. This ain't easy. And I'm saying that to say parenting is not an easy task. It's a daunting task. Think that you have the opportunity to impact on the life of another. To think about this individual as that you will shape and mold this individual. So it's to get them to where they're going to have what's needed to survive and thrive. It takes a commitment, it takes resources, and it takes a willingness to do it. And that's a lifelong. It's not a one-shot deal. As children grow and progress through different stages, their needs change. They become independent, a little more demanding, and sometimes just what appears to be out of control. But I'm saying that to say that from a parenting standpoint, there is no perfect parent, but there are parents who understand what it takes to be a good parent and what one has to do in order to get through that. Because keep in mind, you parent and raise your children, or children are being raised within the context of the time that you're living. And the preparation is for a time that's far beyond anything that we can see and or realize. But children in today's world, 2020, 2021 moving forward, is living in a fast moving, rapidly changing world. And they need to have the knowledge and skills and disposition to be able to do that. I didn't say that it couldn't be done, but it is a daunting task that has many challenges. What is available today, like never before, an abundance of resources and materials that will enable you to do a better job. And so again, as this podcast, what this podcast is about is to empower you and to enable you to do the things that will enable your children to get over hurdles and challenges as they encounter them. And a lot of that goes back to what this theme for today is: teaching children to have an appreciation for the love of learning. If that is instilled in them as they encounter challenges, then this appreciation will provide them with what it takes to negotiate that particular hurdle and to get through it. So today, there was a number of things that I talked about: Juneteenth, appreciation for learning, the preschool to prison pipeline that we want to avoid, and think about the preschool to college, or the avenues of success. So I asked that you would visit my website and look at some of the printed materials there, as well as things that I make an effort to address in the monthly newsletter. Sometime in July, before the new school year starts, I'm going to, with my producer, develop a number of clips for YouTube to further enabling you to provide the kinds of knowledge and skills to prepare children for the next level of their development. Look forward to those early clips sometimes about mid-July, before the new school year starts. And I want this to be a timely manner, and so that you can look at what's being asked, and to make an investment into, if you don't have all the resources, to make an investment. There is something that I put together that's called PEEP, Parent Education for Excellence in Preschools. It's a kit. There's nothing magical about it, but by using these things, it will give you the resources to address much of what I make an effort to talk about. The other piece of it is this: I will help you to also explore many of these items that you have in your household. If in fact you don't have the resources to invest in the kit, there are household items that can get at some of the same skill development and disposition development just by what you have in your household. So with that, visit my website, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week on Chats with Baba. Bye now.